Hello and welcome to Inspire, our video series where we talk to interesting people and share our learning. Today we are joined by Jacky Cai, product developer at IDE Group. Hi Jacky, how are you going today?
Hey, great. How are you, Hugo?
Good, thank you. It's great to be talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having
So,
me.
so we initially met when you were actually working on your engineering trip. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so I think that was, what was that, a year ago now?
About
Um,
that?
Back in 2019. So I organized a engineering trip through my previous workplace at Komatsu, and this was mainly because during uni I had been sporadically involved with EWB, so I studied at UNSW as well. And every now and again, I'd get involved with EWB. But one thing that I didn't get involved with that I regret a lot when I finished uni was actually the school outreach programs. So I've always said to myself, "Oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do the school outreach." And by the end of my uni degree, I actually didn't do any. So that was one thing I really regretted. When I worked at Komatsu last year, we had the opportunity to partner with a non-profit organization to do something that would benefit the community. So I thought, well, what better way than to actually, do a school outreach and work with EWB on this and do something that would actually benefit the community. So I contacted EWB and got Komatsu involved as well, and we organised a engineering trip in Central West New South Wales with a focus on um, Indigenous students. So students with high Indigenous backgrounds, and that area actually had lots of schools with a high percentage of students with Indigenous backgrounds. So that's what we did. We organised this trip, obviously with the help of EWB UNSW, who I had been involved with at uni, and that's where Hugo, you came into it as well and helped out a lot. Helped with the recruitment drive and organize it all with us. It was probably like a 4 month long process trying to get it all together with Komatsu's help as well. And it was a very successful trip and probably one of the best experiences I've had. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that recruiting. It was really fun getting your whole team together and getting them trained. What was your most exciting thing that happened on the trip? Because having been on several regioneerings, there's always stuff that go wrong and then just amazing adventures that you find along the way.
Yeah. So the thing is, I always knew that it would be a very kind of rewarding thing to do, school outreaches. But honestly, never thought that it would be one of the most rewarding experiences I've had so far. And one example is when we went to a little town, probably an hour out west of Dubbo, called Trangie. We visited Trangie Public School, delivered some workshops out there, and just how grateful they were to have some people out there to talk about STEM, to talk about engineering, talk about science, to supplement their teachers' programs that they're trying to run. Because obviously the students listen to the teachers, and then the teachers are just like furniture to them. They listen to them, but they don't really always take too much in. But then bringing people from the outside, kind of reinforcing that learning, really inspired the kids. So the just how welcoming and appreciative that school was. They obviously they brought us lunch. They, after the school was finished, they actually invited all of us into their staff meeting where we talked about STEM programs and what they could do to supplement their students' learning and improve the school's kind of STEM programs. And that was actually really inspiring. Just seeing all these teachers so passionate about inspiring their kids and teaching their kids about STEM, and how appreciative they were of us going out there, because obviously they never had anyone really visit like that before and run a free kind of workshop from people from the big cities, um, and actual engineers. So we had three professional, me myself included, engineers on that trip as well, and that was probably one of the most memorable experiences on that trip.
Yeah, it's always great to have like real engineers coming with us on those trips or going out on those trips, because they make such a difference for both the students like getting involved and participating as volunteers and the people we're visiting. And so it's great to have people along like you. Currently, you're still involved with EWB in another capacity. Could you please tell us more about that?
Yeah, so currently I'm the New South Wales School Outreach Coordinator. So mainly helping be the bridge between the National EWB office and the university EWB chapters. Obviously focused just on school outreach. So I've been in that role since around August last year. And this was mainly due to the Regioneering trip I ran. So I ran that trip, and again, as I said, one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, and I really wanted to get more involved. And just so happened that the position for the New South Wales School Outreach Coordinator opened up. So I thought I'd jump on and see what I could do. So obviously this year's been a bit different with school outreach because of the COVID pandemic, but it has been a really great experience working with National Office and all the universities to try still deliver these school outreach workshops.
Yeah, I know it's been a true journey for our school outreach team we've had, and they've just finally started effectively running online outreaches, which has been so exciting to see. And I think they've had, two in the last couple of weeks, if not more, which has been great.
Yeah, so that's amazing, and it has obviously taken a little bit of time. I know ACT, EWB has been running some of these online workshops before, but I think this is a great opportunity for EWB and our school outreach capacity, because there are a lot of schools out there that are very isolated, very rural, and the only ways we can actually get to them is through Regioneering. But Regioneering is such, we probably run it once a semester each uni, if that, and it all has to be part of like the plan, like getting out to these schools that all have to fit into this grander plan of what schools want to get to, and then and the road we get to it. There's so much logistics around it. So sometimes it's actually very difficult to get to these isolated and rural schools. The fact that we're creating this capability to deliver workshops virtually online now, that's amazing, because even when this pandemic disappears, which I'm hoping it does, and we go back to face-to-face workshops, face-to-face workshops, we can still have the capacity to deliver these workshops to these rural isolated schools that would never get a chance to experience this at all.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too, because just looking at the maps of New South Wales, and I've been planning Regioneerings in the past, you try and make it as far out into like New South Wales as possible, but you just need to have it within the 5-day time limit.
Exactly, it still needs to be accessible to Sydney within a couple of days, otherwise it's just unfeasible.
Yeah. Also, you've actually had experience with startups in the past. What was your goal with eco robotics?
Yeah, so eco robotics was actually something born out of my uni experience and my thesis project. So for my thesis, I designed a self-sorting recycling bin. And the ultimate goal of that was to reduce the amount of waste that was diverted to landfills by improving waste recovery and reuse and recycling. So developed a prototype for the identification of waste in this recycling bin. And after that, I actually, through mentorship from my thesis supervisor and his advice, we joined some, so when I say we, I mean me and my thesis partner, those are two of us. We did some startup accelerator programs. So we got we won a small grant from UNSW at their, I don't know if they still run it, but they had what was called, it's like a disruptor program where you could
founders program.
Sorry,
was it the founders program?
No, it was a bit different. So it wasn't as big as that, and as as well known, but it was called like engineering disruptors challenge or something like that. And it was a small program where you came up with ideas and then pitched those ideas to disrupt the current kind of the status quo in the world right now. So obviously mine was focused on waste and how we could improve recycling, and got a small grant from them. And then again later in the year, we joined the University of La Trobe Startup Accelerator program, where we won a $5,000 grant and a lot of mentorship, industry mentorship to develop our idea. So we worked on that for probably 6 months. And yeah, that was my experience at the startup world.
What do you think was your biggest learning from your time in the entrepreneur space?
It was, and it's so cliche, but it's you're gonna fail a lot, and not to be discouraged by that. And it's again, it's very cliche. There's so many quotes, and I don't know. I think there's a Michael Jordan quote about that as well. But that was the first time I actually experienced very like hard rejection and failure. When you pitch your idea to investors and none of them are interested, that's very demoralizing. But but more but the learnings from it is like why weren't they interested, why weren't they willing to invest, and those learnings are the most valuable things you could ever get. And you would never get those without trying. You would never get those without giving it a go. So I've actually taken those learnings now, and I am where I am today because of those learnings. And I'm adamant that that startup eventually will come to fruition, and all the learnings I've gathered from that feedback from those startup accelerator programs, that's gotten me to where I am today, and that's where it's going to take me to back to that startup and eventually get it working. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see how that comes along in the future.
Yeah.
Currently, you're actually working with IDE Group in the consulting space. How does a consulting workplace differ from other workplaces?
Yeah. So a consulting workplace, very, very difficult, very challenging, because all our work is client focused. So the time pressures are much more immense, the budget pressures, the expectation management, the difficult conversations you need to have with clients, because none of your projects are going to be perfect, but it's about recognizing when the budget or time schedule is going to blow out early, and then having those difficult conversations with the clients early on to have them still buy into what you're doing for them. And so when the schedule runs over time, they're already all on board. They all already know, and you can continue from there. At companies where you're working on projects that are internal, those time pressures and budget pressures aren't always, they're obviously there, but they're very movable. With these, with working with clients in a consulting capacity, it's much stricter in what you can do, and it's also your reputation's on the line because you really need to deliver results for your clients. So been learning lots about kind of, again, expectation management, client management, people skills, and there's such a variety of work in the consulting space as well.
So communication is truly a key aspect of it. Do you have any advice on how to communicate in a professional workspace better?
Well, a lot of the times it's just be open. Um, Sometimes your ego and your pride gets in the way of saying, kind of gets in the way of being honest. So sometimes when you are having problems and you can't deliver for whatever reason, sometimes the best thing you can do is actually just be honest with your manager and tell them the small issues and struggles that you're going through. They could be work related, they could be not work related. but sometimes our ego and pride gets in the way that we want to just work through it without communicating these issues. And sometimes we do overtime, we work extra hard to try to deliver, but in the end, it's just a vicious cycle that comes back to bite us, because that's where burnout comes from. What you'll notice a lot in the professional world is they have HR departments for a reason. Like, they want to develop a workplace that people enjoy being in. So having actual open and honest communication is very important, and being honest with where you are, but also just coming up with solutions with your colleagues and managers, to how to solve some of these issues. Yeah.
Are there any interesting projects you're allowed to tell us about today?
So a lot of them are quite confidential, but I can give you just a quick overview of some cool stuff that we have done, including a new idea for kind of battery storage system. So instead of using lithium ion, a battery that uses zinc bromide, and that was a company that actually came out of Sydney Uni that we're working with. Something we do as well. Again, I can't get into it in too much detail, but we manufacture condoms, which is interesting, in the medical space. And currently I'm working on a machine that manufactures medical blisters. So like blister packs, you'll see drugs normally packed in. Currently working on a machine similar to that. But what we do mainly is we specialize in products that have never been created before. So we're specialists in dealing with uncertainty, in products and businesses with high risk of failure, because of how new these ideas are, or because of how these things have never been done before. You can't use examples from the outside world because it's all new, and that's what we really specialize in. Yeah.
That sounds truly challenging, but yet really rewarding. So I look forward to seeing what you work on and what you produce into the future. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jacky.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, Hugo. It's good chatting to you.
Now I'll hand everyone over to Ning and Muskin once again for the end of our last podcast for this year. Enjoy.
Hi guys, welcome to the second section of this week's podcast. Today we'll be doing a short interview.
We've had interviews with professionals from all across industry along the way, traveling through this season, but we've also been learning along the way. So today we'd like to find out what you two learned along the way.
For me, the main thing I learned is video editing. At the start of this project, I feel like I have zero knowledge in what to do with video editing. But like now I kind of found out what software to use and what to do basically. So I think that's a really good thing to learn.
I know it's very similar for me along the way as well. I barely knew what Premiere was at the beginning of the season, and now I can sort of use it. We'll see.
Yeah. Something that was interesting along the way was the topics that we found. The researching was like, there was a lot of unexpected stuff that came up when we did our research. For example, the paper centrifuge. Like, I don't think I was expecting something like that to pop up. But it was really interesting. Like, it's really smart that how people try to fix real world problems with such simple solutions.
Yeah, that was really cool, and I loved hearing about it. Muskin, how about you?
Same for me with like editing and all of the topics that we learned about along the way. It's been interesting learning how a problem is taken and then it's expanded into like the real world and how it's like adapted and changed to fit everyone, because that's what humanitarian engineering is about. It's like adapting to the people. And same for me with editing. Like I was so bad at it with the beginning. Like the first time that I edited it, I think it took me like 5 hours just because I was having so much trouble with like editing and like cutting it and like finding the points where you had to do it. And then by the end, it was like a much faster process with it. And it actually was pretty fun. Like it's calming just like sitting there, like going through and editing stuff. So a topic that I found interesting was the water purification one that we did. It was about where you have like this chemical and then you put it in the water and it purifies it. So I found that quite interesting because I'm doing environmental engineering and I really like water engineering and all of that stuff. So it was quite interesting to see and learn more about it, especially like the research side, because we haven't been able to do that yet.
Well, it's been great joining you two today, and thank you for sharing your learning.
Thank you as well.
Yep, thank you as well. And just a quick plug, if you guys have enjoyed the projects that we've talked about, especially the last one, which is off-grid electricity and power, next year EWB will be having our own project based on surgical lamps. So if you guys are interested in that, please reach out and contact us on our Facebook page.
Thank you.
Thank you.